channel's radio station because I'm going to interview Bill Mick. We're actually going to be with him while he's doing his show. So incredible as you believe it, doesn't get any more real than this. Here we are. What made you leave law enforcement and get into this type of business, radio show business?
I left law enforcement under very unique circumstances. I was a drug cop for a big part of my career, and I busted two of our own for dealing dope. A year and a half later, one of them's daddy was named chief of police. He was chief of detectives at the time. I took his son in. And when he became chief of police, his first action was to remove me from detective work and put me back into patrol. And I didn't work another day. I took vacation and then left. Back into the show. Here we go.
Lines are open. Call Bill now at 768-1240.
O'Galley Electric bringing you this hour of a wide open Wednesday. Glad you're with us. Your topic gets on the table at 321-768-1240. On the web, we're at WMMBAM.com. Keyword Mick takes you to my page, the web poll. What's your reaction to Starbucks preferring no guns at their stores? Choices are don't care about their preference. I'm carrying mine. Agree with them. Guns are bad. 24% of our vote, by the way. I didn't know you people were in the audience. 18% saying bad guys now know where they're safe. And 29% saying McDonald's has better, cheaper coffee anyway. Also 29% on the don't care about their preference. I'm carrying my gun too. It has become an unintentional Second Amendment Wednesday on this wide open Wednesday on the show. Before we get to the rest of my thoughts on this shooter from, well, I'll tell you what, let me give you those, and because the call is going to change the topic just a little bit, going back to the Starbucks thing, but this this D.C. Navy Yard shooter apparently had some fairly severe mental health issues, reportedly being treated for paranoia at the time these shootings occurred on Monday. And there have been various police reports, including one recently in Newport, Rhode Island, back in August, that he was hearing voices, being followed by 3 people, and they were shooting microwaves into his body to keep him awake. Not exactly living on terra firma here. And I think the question we need to ask ourselves as a society is, how are we missing the signs? This guy should not have been able to pass any security clearance background. You don't give security clearances to nut jobs. I'm sorry, that wasn't politically correct. To the mentally ill. Are we so politically correct that we can't call a nut anymore? That we can't take that preemptive action that would have saved 12 lives and probably the 13th of the shooter himself in Washington, D.C. on Monday? Had this guy gotten the help he was seeking, Monday's tragedy may not have occurred. And the final thought for me on this is that this goes to show and to prove that no matter how much the anti-gun left, the Second Amendment attackers, if you will, want to claim it, background checks, boys and girls, are not the answer. Background checks didn't do a thing to prevent these tragedies in D.C. Jason is in Satellite Beach. Morning, Jason. Give me your thoughts. I am very well, sir, and watch throwing that young word around. Well, they don't want to. They don't want to make that statement. They want you, as a lawful gun owner, to respect their wishes and not bring any guns to their establishment. Yeah. How about a sign that says, "We are a target-rich environment"? Okay. not once but twice by this same defense contractor, passing background checks both times, having been in and out of the system of the criminal justice system, but also in and out of the healthcare system, being treated for paranoia, the report says, as of Monday. How do we miss the bubble? How do we miss that this guy should be treated more extensively than he was, and that he was potentially this dangerous? Background checks aren't the answer as far as gun control or anything else goes. Mm-hmm. Unexpected times and ways. Let me ask you this, because my assumption would be that that healthcare bureaucracy, mental health or otherwise, is also hampered by the political correctness that pervades our society today, that they can't honestly say, this guy's a nut and he needs to be locked up. Another example, the tragic way we treat our military men and women who leave service and have need of those services. One of these days I'll have my nephew on, who is a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, and is probably being separated from his service because he has developed a lung disorder as a result, most likely, of chemicals sprayed in Iraq and or Afghanistan, and the military not acknowledging that their use of that spray, whatever the chemicals were, was a cause of his condition. This is a formerly healthy 28, 29, 30-year-old kid who had served his country honorably, and now they're not going to renew his contract, and he will not have the pension, he will not have the benefits, and he sacrificed a lot more than his peace of mind for his country. Back in 30 seconds more, your calls ahead on Bill Mick Live.
Stop chasing your tail when it comes to saving energy. FPL can help.
Sun Plumbing, one of our sponsors on the program, in business in Brevard since 1974. What's that longevity tell you about a company? Number one, they're pretty darn good at what they do. Number two, they're reliable. Number three, how about you call them, a human answers the phone, and they serve your need just as quickly as possible. That number for your plumbing emergency, 725-2460. Write it down, put it on your desk, stick it on the refrigerator. When you have a plumbing emergency, you don't have time to be scrambling around. 725-2460. Go online to sunplumbing.com, see all that they do. What, 38 years in business now, pushing 39. They're really well known for what they're doing. They'll price the job for you by the hour, with it prorated after the first hour, and they'll give you a flat rate on the job too. Get back to the phones real quickly. We go to Olin in Palm Bay. Olin, give me your thoughts this morning. Uh-huh. They do like doing that. Olin, sadly, the hour is done. I've got to let you run. I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. Nice to have you back in town. And if you'd been around a military installation, you probably could have streamed us over there. Just keep that in mind next time you travel. iHeartRadio making all that possible. And that music festival coming up this weekend in Vegas. Enjoy it. Thanks to O'Galley Electric for this hour.
Okay. Okay, back to the question. What are your likes, dislikes? Do you have any?
Always a big sports fan. Used to be a professional baseball umpire and a collegiate baseball umpire. Loved that. It was great work and a lot of fun. A lot of travel, but it was very enjoyable. So sports always a big part of it. Used to referee a lot of basketball on the high school level. Back in my early days before the drug cop stuff came into play, and that I couldn't be reliable after that because you never knew when the drug deal was going to happen. So that was a little difficult. I couldn't take a contract a year in advance. Watch a lot of sports, like my West Virginia Mountaineers, although they weren't very good last year and had some talent, just different conference level that they were playing at. And it was tough for them. We'll see if they do any better this year. But I enjoy that. Recently, new hobby for me is jet ski.
Oh, jet ski.
I bought a Yamaha Wave Runner, pretty big one, and I've just enjoyed every minute I've spent on the water. And I always thought I'd rather have a jet ski instead of a boat, and I was right. I'm having a great time with it. It's a lot of fun. So I spend as much time as I can doing that too.
Okay. Are you single or married?
Single for the first time in many, many years. I was married for 21 the last time.
Okay.
So single right now. Been single about 3 years. Have 3 adult kids, 3 grandkids. It's kind of different. 54 and thinking about dating again. I've been out of the dating game way too long. It's a new world.
It's not a fun game to be in anyway.
Okay, I'm kind of getting that. I kind of figure that. But hey, it's all right. We'll get there.
Yeah. Just starting over. So, what else?
I've got a fun job, but it requires being up at 3:15 every morning. That alarm going off some days not so
So
pleasant.
you sleep during the day?
I do. I get up at 3:15. I'm in the office here by 4 o'clock most mornings, and then do the show from 6 to 9. After the show, I'm the program director, so I have to deal with our affiliates that provide us programming, people who are wanting to buy programming. I go out with our sales folks and talk to the clients about advertising on the station or on the show in particular. I take care of all those duties usually before noon, and then I'm home and I try to get a nap, a couple of 3 hours in the afternoon. I only get, if I'm lucky, 6 hours of sleep every night. I try to be in bed about 9:30. Sometimes if I have something going on, it's 10 o'clock or maybe a little later, so I try to catch up on that sleep in the afternoon a little bit, so that's fun.
Did you always want to go into this, or was there something that wasn't expected, or did you just go into it because you wanted to?
I left law enforcement in West Virginia in 1994. I managed security and personnel in private industry for 4 years after that, and then we moved to Florida in 98. Jobs were a little different down here, not anything I'd been used to as far as where I was working at the time. I'd sold insurance for a little bit, worked at a hotel for a while, and I was still doing the professional umpiring things. I actually worked at Publix stocking shelves while I was a pro umpire. In the off season, I was stocking shelves at Publix. And I wrote a letter to the local radio station owner at the time that carried Rush Limbaugh. We had very vibrant talk radio in little old Charleston, West Virginia. Wasn't anything like it here. So I wrote a letter complaining, saying, hey, I'm used to something better in a much smaller market. Don't like to complain without offering to be part of the solution. How do I get involved? A couple of weeks later, I was doing overnight talk radio, trying to learn what I was doing. And then a year and a half after that, I had a choice between staying in professional umpiring or going into radio, and I chose the radio side and been at it ever since. That was at the end of the 2000 season.
Oh, wow.
So I got into it kind of in a unique way, but it was new and different. Yeah.
You have interviewed people, so as an interviewer, I'm not really experienced at it. What would you give us that are beginning to do interviews? What are your knowledge on that?
Do not over-prepare for your interview. You ask better questions when you don't know what's coming. Think about what you want to know, but don't try to learn up on the subject. That's what your interview subject is for, is to tell you and to educate you. If they're educating you, they're going to educate your audience at the same time. So I like to put it, I ask better questions when I'm ignorant.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I kind of do it.
It works.
I I am
Keep
polite.
trying. That's the whole idea. I don't script anything. Scripted interviews are never good. And people who try to script radio shows or try to script them, it doesn't sound genuine. You ask people questions like you're in a conversation, like we are right now. It comes off genuine. You get honest information, and you can always follow up if there's something that gets your curiosity going. Not bad.
That's very intelligent. That's how I do it. I'm just.
Good. Keep working on it. It will serve you well.
How do you do to not be nervous? To not be nervous while you're on air. To not do a mistake.
You have to recognize the mistakes are coming no matter what. What you have to learn to do is ignore them. Because if you don't draw attention to them, your audience, they're not listening intently every minute. You like to think they are, but they're not. Radio's a passive medium, except for those folks that pick up the phone and call. They're driving in their car, or they're sitting at home working on something. They've got the radio on in the background. They're listening to what you're saying. And that slip that you might make, if you draw attention to it, they are going to pay attention to it. If you just let it go on by and don't worry about it, it's going to be fine. So accept the fact that mistakes are going to happen. Live with it and move on. If you make a grievous one, apologize for it. Own up to what mistakes you make. Be responsible. That's what it's all about.
Okay. Good.
And quit smoking. George, is it about time to go back?
Yeah.
We can talk more in the studio.
Okay.
And online at WMMBAM.com.
As drivers, our surroundings are constantly changing. Like, when did this lane become a bike lane? And why can't I turn right on it? And not just change, we have distractions too. Cute ones, but nevertheless distractions. So it's important to always pay attention, especially around crosswalks. 1 in 4 traffic fatalities involve a pedestrian. You're smart. Smart enough to know that safety doesn't happen by accident.
Alert today, alive tomorrow. A message from the Florida Department of Transportation.
Whoa, what a whopper. Where's my net? Whoa! Help! Help!
They say your life flashes before your eyes, but then you die. Life jackets save lives. Visit wearitflorida.com for more information.
They say you get what you pay for, meaning the less you pay, the less you get. Not necessarily.
1240 AM in South Brevard, 1350 AM in the north, and wherever you are with iHeartRadio. Glad you're with us for a wide open Wednesday edition of Bill Mick Live. We let you in at 321-768-1240. It is where your topic takes control. Coming up Friday and Saturday, the iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas. Elton John, Paul McCartney, Tim McGraw, and so many more. You can't list them all. You'll see big parts of it on the WB this weekend. Also listen to it live, either via iHeartRadio or right here locally on KISS 95.1, our sister station just down the hall. Let's get back to Jim, our Canadian Floridian time splitter. And Jim, you had a second topic you want to get to, but we ran out of time. What's on your mind, sir? Is that because those folks, in many cases, just aren't seeking the help? They haven't been diagnosed yet? it is going to occur. We're never going to, just like banning texting while driving or using your cell phone while driving, until they ban cheeseburgers while you're driving and turn around and swatting the kids in the back seat when they're misbehaving. They're not going to be able to ban everything that might be that problem. We're not going to catch every problem that occurs, Jim. And from your experience in that healthcare profession and having seen this from the inside a little bit, you mentioned the stigma that goes with it, that the general practitioners, are they not recognizing it, or are they just not wanting to stigmatize their patients? Is there a politically correct element to what they're doing even? Right. Mm-hmm. Well, you hear the spots all day on WMMB from the Wounded Warrior Project about what they're trying to do with those vets with PTSD, and God bless them for trying to help, you know? No, you're exactly right. Exactly. No, no, no. They were showing a pattern of behavior on his part in that Fox News story we had a while ago. Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm. All right, Jim, thank you for sticking through the break and getting your points on the table. It's always good to have you along. 321-768-1240 lets you do the same thing as we talk about those military veterans and their problems after service. Well, they also bring a lot of skills and a lot of training and a lot of dedication to mission when they separate from military service and start looking for employment in the real world. Well, we'd like to recognize Boathouse Discount Marine, Endine, PSI of Florida, ISO Group, CrossFit Port St. Lucie, and Mobile Integrated Technologies for all becoming part of that WMMB iHeartRadio Show Your Stripes movement. The idea is to hire smart and hire vets. We'd like to encourage your business to get involved and be part of it, and you can do so at iHeartRadio.com/showyourstripes. iHeartRadio.com/showyourstripes. If you'd like more information on the program, like me to talk to your HR department, maybe your business or your chamber group, would love to come out and do that. Enjoy getting out and meeting folks and talking about a program that's designed to help these veterans and to help you as well. You get great employees when you take a look at hiring those vets. That's what it's all about at iHeartRadio.com/showyourstripes. Going to shift gears a little bit now and go to a couple of issues. Debbie brought up one on the animal control and the money and the budget and what they are and aren't doing as far as that element in the county commission as we opened our 7 o'clock hour. If you missed that, catch the podcast on demand at WMMBAM.com. But also, they addressed a couple issues that we've been tackling here over the last few weeks. One of them, they were considering selling 77 acres of Wickham Park in Melbourne to Eastern Florida State College. The college, of course, expanding into a 4-year institution as opposed to that community college it had been throughout its existence, and more space being needed. A couple of quick hits on this story. They've delayed voting on cutting this deal. The commissioners want more public feedback, And here's a different flavor of a 4-1 vote on the county commission. The 4-1 vote was to delay this action, except Mary Boleyn wanted to sell it now. So she kind of gets to know what it's like to be Trudy Infantini for a change. She's the one vote that says, sell it, hurry up, get rid of it. Everybody else says, we want a little more information. Commissioners did start talking, however, as the story notes by Dave Berman in Florida today, about how the county could use the potential $3.85 million that it would get for selling these 77 acres. It's all in the northeast corner of Wickham Park. That's an exorbitant price. They're finally getting the money for land that they're used to spending for it. That's kind of interesting. The public concerned about the project and how it could impact residents in the area, wildlife in the park, and threatened species like some scrub jays and gopher tortoises. It's simple. It's a 390-some acre park. And yeah, 391 acres. They're going to carve out 77. Plenty of room for those species to move just a little bit. So get off your high horse, enviro nut jobs. Chuck Nelson, his concern, now remember he was a county parks director before he got elected to the commission position, said he struggles with the idea of selling parkland to the college because the whole idea from his mindset is have as much parkland as you can. Well, no, he said he's been fighting to preserve parks from development. Also concerned that the public was caught by surprise about the land sale proposal, and the proposal didn't go through the process of being considered by a county park. Disagree with Trudy Infantini. Philosophically, we were very much on the same page, but she said she didn't believe that Eastern Florida's Melbourne campus is the best site for the proposed expansion. She suggested they look at Palm Bay, where there's unused land where they could expand. Trudy, this comes down to a yes or no decision for you, darling, and you know I love you dearly, but either you want to sell them land or you don't. How the college chooses to grow and expand is in their purview, not the purview of the county commission. If Robin Fisher was telling them they needed to do this in North Brevard, in Titusville, at a campus up there, I would be ripping him apart. So here's my ripping you apart. Either yes or no on the land, darling, and let the college decide what it's going to do. It's probably been a while since Trudy and I disagreed on anything. What do you think about that? 321-768-1240. Hey, I want to. The college needs to decide how it wants to grow and expand. If it can't work the deal with the county, maybe they do expand in Palm Bay. So, cast your votes, decide how you're going to do it, and good luck to Eastern Florida State College. I'm glad that we've got the 4-year institution in Brevard County. The other issue yesterday in front of the county commission is probably the bigger one. And it's bigger for several reasons. For me, it's because it involves a very disrespectful Economic Development Commission of Florida Space Coast and their remarks to Commissioner Trudy Infantini yesterday. By the way, Skippy, whatever his name was, that was speaking to the commission on behalf of the EDC yesterday, you could have done that a lot better than you did. Trudy and I do disagree on this college issue. We don't disagree on this issue that you brought in front of them. By awarding this $1.4 million potential tax break to Sun Energy, Florida Today reporting that their stock value jumped some 12% just as this was being discussed yesterday. So there is impact of the county commission decision when it comes to what businesses we deal with. You other 4 members of the commission, you other 3, because Andy Anderson had to bail out, the alleged chairman of the commission has some business dealings that are impacted by what happens with Sun Energy because he introduced him to the EDC and told him to go seek all this stuff in the first place because he's got a land deal that's involved that he stands to profit from, apparently. So he did the right thing and recused himself. Give him credit for that. However, his involvement was more properly and fully vetted by Trudy's questioning of the Sun Energy CEO as he appeared in front of the commission yesterday, and she did an excellent job of bringing that information out. But as this thing came in front of the commission yesterday, Andy immediately recused himself and left, turned it over to Mary Boleyn, and I'm sorry, I get, and I do it myself, I butcher names when they have uncommon spellings, and unless you know what's going on, But it was just downright funny watching Mary Boleyn try to pronounce the name of these people who were speaking in front of the commission yesterday. If you didn't watch the commission meeting, just for the comedic factor of Mary Boleyn pronouncing these names, you need to go back and watch the video. It was hilarious. Anyway, as this conversation began, they had public people come up and speak about it, and they were speaking against it in large part. The company spokesman did acknowledge that they are a developing company, but they had an equity line of credit. And I couldn't help but think that this guy sounds like a New York, New Jersey mobster as he's speaking to the commission. And he talked about him being a young and emerging company with a 5-year plan that they're just now in month number 4 of. I'm wondering about the wisdom of granting this tax abatement. We'll talk it some more as we continue on this Wide Open Wednesday.
One of my questions is a pretty simple one. People usually ask people, what are your favorite foods, but what is your favorite dessert?
Boy, there are so many, that's a tough question. I'm a big chocolate chip cookie fan.
Okay.
When it comes to a more formal dessert, chocolate cake,
Do you like ice cream sundae?
pumpkin pie,
Oh, pumpkin pie.
apple pies. Ice cream is wonderful. There's a new ice cream place over on the beach in Satellite Beach that are doing these blizzard-like things. I think they call them cyclones. Chocolate ice cream with Heath bar chopped up in it. Oh, it's really good.
Where is it?
It's on the corner of A1A and Roosevelt in Satellite Beach. Yeah, it's been an ice cream place before, open under new management. Not trying to do the hard serve stuff. It's kind of more of a Dairy Queen-like fare, and it's not Dairy Queen, but it's great stuff, and the prices are good. So I enjoy it. Once or twice a week. Not, I could go every night. Yeah, could, but I'm gonna try not to.
Okay. I'm gonna go on a topic that maybe I shouldn't, but you stop me if I shouldn't. I just want to have your views on the economy. What are some of your views on that? If you can give me a little bit.
No such thing as a topic you shouldn't cover. Don't worry about that. We're at a Wide Open Wednesday here on the show, and I'll let my audience bring up anything. I'm not an economist. I'm not close to it, but I've seen a severe downturn in bad decisions on the part of the administration of Barack Obama. Wasn't an Obama fan going in. Mitt Romney came from the business world. Mitt Romney's decisions and those of people that he worked with at Bain Capital directly impact Clear Channel because they bought into Clear Channel as partners several years ago, and we've seen those austerity measures. I would love to see those same measures in play on some of these big departments in the federal government. Some of them don't need to exist, and some of them need drastically curtailed. We are going through tough times in the country. I think they're going to continue for a while, and it's going to be the spirit of the American people that turns it around. And if we could fix the tax system, if we could make the tax system more fair, more conducive to business, as opposed to being oppressive of business, you would see manufacturers start to relocate back to this country. I'm a big proponent of the fair tax, and I like what it brings to the table, especially for manufacturers. Bring them back in the country, bring jobs back with them, and let's have a manufacturing society again. Right now we're a consumer society, and we're not making much of what we need here.
Right. Another thing that I want your views on is, what do you think of Obamacare? I'm not pro-Obamacare, so I'm wondering.
I'm not a fan. I believe it is government basically trying to take over about 1/6 of the American economy. The American health care system is the best in the world. That's why people come from all over the country to get their medical treatments here. The health insurance system could use some tweaks, in all honesty, but the government run is not the answer. Government mandating that you buy insurance with your hard-earned dollars. Not their job to tell you what you buy. If you can afford it, you buy it. If you can't, you don't. The idea that they're going to penalize people for not buying health insurance, but the penalty rate is going to be so low that it's more attractive to take the penalty than to get the insurance. That's not providing for everybody. That's not providing for everybody at all. So they're not being honest about what they're trying to do. They're trying to run insurance companies out of business, so you've got single-payer healthcare system in this country where the government is the healthcare provider. Take a look at about any government program. Do you really want them doing your healthcare too? Don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that I always like to touch topic with.
Sure.
It's something there that I don't support at all.
Well, it's a heavy-handed government. It's government doing things that they shouldn't be responsible for and telling you what to do with your hard-earned dollars. No.
Right, that's not what our founding fathers wanted for us.
They didn't have that in mind at all.
Yeah. You know, they left for freedom, and then we're doing this. So I just wanted
That's
to.
exactly right.
What else was there? Something else. Went away.
That's all right. That happens all the time.
10 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Sitting right here, doing this same thing. Hopefully with a few more radio stations along the way. I don't want to do a national show. I would prefer to do a statewide show where we talk statewide issues. And if we're in 4 or 5 markets across the state of Florida, I'd be perfectly content with that. I'm content with what we're doing now. Here we go, back into the show.
Common sense, uncommon radio. It's Bill Mick Live.
Of course, coming up after my show here in about 15-20 minutes, Glenn Beck. And we've got that Beck book giveaway along with a Mark Levin book that is part of the fray. It's on the contest page at WMMBAM.com. Keyword contest will take you there. You can register once a day and every Friday for 4 weeks. First 3 weeks, Glenn Beck's follow-up to the Overton window, the Eye of Moloch, is going to be put in somebody's hands. And then in that 4th week, Mark Levin's The Liberty Amendments. So get yourself registered on the web at WMMBAM.com. 768-1240, if you would like to weigh in here. I want to go to yesterday's county commission meeting, and rather than the Florida Today story, which is a page and a half, I've got a couple of pages, for those of you on the Insider Cam, I've got a couple of pages of notes going here that I took during this portion of the discussion. And just kind of how I think to myself as these things occur. Trudy Infantini started questioning the CEO of Sun Energy, Mr. MilkHoneyAdvice. And Mary Boleyn pronounced that 2 or 3 different names during this thing yesterday, and I get it, but anyway, not related to Mark, the former publisher of Florida Today, by the way. Ask him how he found the building that he plans to locate in on North Drive. And there's a method to her madness, I'm sure. He said he found it by driving by. Asked him how he selected Brevard County. Said he has lived here part-time. He has a condo in Cocoa Beach, so he's a former resident. Asked how he was directed to the EDC and these tax abatements, and he said he followed the county meetings, and then he spoke with Andy Anderson, and Andy had suggested through this questioning, it came out, that he go speak to the EDC. And then he went through his rather complicated explanation of their potential finances as to how they plan to invest in Brevard. Robin Fisher then spoke and decided that explanations on this tax abatement idea would best come from the county's lady-in-waiting county manager, Stockton Witten, to explain the abatement program, that it's not really an abatement, that it's an exemption from taxes, provided that they bring the jobs as they said they would. And he said also in these comments that Robin did, that the EDC's role was not to bring to the county commissioners winners and losers. But yet the EDC has done that very thing, because they recommend this less than a penny stock. Note to the Bill Mick Live inbox this morning said, you know, on the bottom of the grocery coupons where it says they're worth 1/100th of a cent, that makes them worth more than Sun Energy stock. Did you know that? Remember it reported yesterday 0.07 cents is their value? 0.07 of a cent. 7/1000ths of a cent. 0.0700ths of a cent. Anyway, it was an interesting comment on the Bill Mick Live inbox. But yet the county commission is being brought winners and losers chosen by the EDC, because remember, they discouraged the gun manufacturer from seeking these tax abatements because of the quote-unquote political climate, although the EDC claims to be a non-political entity. Boys and girls, we're being told a lie. There is nothing more political than the Economic Development Commission of Florida Space Coast and the way their business is handled. Mary Boleyn Lewis jumped in talking about the EDC. No. They brought in a spokesman from the EDC to speak, I believe. I don't have the name, I can't read it. That this whole conversation had devolved into something that it wasn't intended to be. Whether or not a company was eligible, and he was asking what was the deal. The EDC jumped on and started attacking Trudy Infantini at that point, claiming that they didn't do anything here, that there was no intent to encourage the commission to approve this, just to encourage that they consider it. He talked about the EDC being the right thing to do, and they said that they didn't pick winners and losers, but yes, they do, as we talked about with the gun situation. And then they had the audacity, because Trudy's a conservative, to bring up Ronald Reagan and his vision of economic development. Chuck Nelson, maybe with some common sense, question, what was the county's risk if they approved this? And Stockton Whitten, the lady in waiting, told him there was no risk, that there was no reason not to take the chance. Chuck again said the EDC doesn't pick winners and losers, but yes, Chuck, they do, when they discourage gun manufacturers from seeking these very same tax abatements and encourage this company that has not proven that it even has any idea of an ability to survive, much less a plan to do so. And then Trudy jumped back in talking about what we've been talking about here recently, which is, what does this say about our county's tax structure? Fisher said the risk is that this company could lose their investment. Well, this company's playing with other people's money. It's not the own company. It's not their own money that they're playing with. They are seeking investors through offering more stock than they should in order to have investors in their company. He says, and if they lose that, that's their problem. Chuck Nelson then jumped on the bandwagon after the EDC's comments toward Trudy, accused her of not giving the same scrutiny to Sun Nuclear as she did Sun Energy. That's why she was beating up the EDC. He says, we, the county commission, are responsible. And then goes back to citing Embraer and Project Jaguar and talked about the criticism they received then, which is criticism they should have received, because they cast their votes in the blind for a company that they didn't know what it was, and they agreed to give it cash along the way in advance of anything going on. They were giving it cash, not waiting for performance. Thank God Embraer's performing. I'm glad they're part of the community. But the way that deal was done is wrong. And because of the scrutiny that the EDC has received, they no longer do those advanced tax abatements. They now require performance before the money gets handed out. That, my friends, is as it should be. And that, my friends, is why we continue to look at and scrutinize the actions and attitudes of the Economic Development Commission of Florida's Space Coast. They turn down a gun manufacturer, and then they look at a company like this, stock valued at 0.007 of a cent, and say, yeah, that's a good idea. I don't think the EDC is doing the job they're being asked to do, and they deny responsibility at every turn. But they wanted to jump down Trudy's throat yesterday. So very, very wrong. Back in 1 minute as we wrap up a wide open Wednesday on Bill Mick Live. Clock hour tomorrow, and as we talk to Matt, we'll take a look at corruption in the state of Florida and his interview today on TV with property appraiser Dana Blickley and how things are turning around in Brevard, in large part because of efforts in that office. She's doing a great job. Saw her Saturday night at the RLC dinner too. Anyway, thank you guys for your participation on a very interesting wide open Wednesday. We'll get it all started again in the morning at 6, and between now and then, Beck 9 to noon, Limbaugh noon to 3, Hannity 3 to 6, and Mark Levin taking in at 9 o'clock, and Andy Dean right here on WMMB. Go make it a great Wednesday, everybody. I'll see you back here in the morning at 6.
WMMB News. Port Canaveral commissioners will vote today on a proposal to
What'd you think today?
That's a pretty good show.
Alright, I would just like to thank you in front of everyone who watches this video
Okay.
for giving me your time, for giving me the opportunity to see you live. That's incredible. I really We appreciate it.
Glad you enjoyed it. Good having you in here.
And please do check out on my website, which, by the way, is www.MilkHoneyAdvice.com, so that you can see how the interview was put together and how it looks and the photos, etc.
I'll look forward to it.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming in. I really
so
appreciate it.
much.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.